What if the way you die was so ironic, it felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke? From safety experts who became victims of their own advice, to tragic mishaps that make you question fate, these stories are so bizarre they're almost unbelievable. Get ready to be stunned by a collection of the most ironic deaths you've ever heard. Don't miss 1 hour of people who died in extremely ironic ways. November 8, 2021, and Harry Byrne from Kilkenny, Ireland was at school. At 13 years old, Harry was a bright, spirited teenager with an unwavering love for sports, particularly hurling. Known for his infectious smile and kind-hearted nature, Harry was described by family and friends as a standout young man. His dedication to hurling, a game deeply ingrained in his community, was evident in his many achievements. Harry had recently won 2 under-13 county championships and had been called for trials with the Kilkenny County Development Squad, a significant honor for the young athlete and his family. That November afternoon, though, things took a devastating turn for the 13-year-old. It was lunch break at St. Kieran's College in Kilkenny. Harry Byrne was playing hurling with friends, enjoying the sport he loved, when tragedy struck. A sliotar, a hard leather ball used in hurling, hit Harry in the throat. At first, the boy said he felt fine, though he did have a headache. Then, in a matter of moments, he collapsed. A supervising teacher, Simon Reedy, was alerted by one of the boys and rushed to the scene. Harry was found about 20 yards behind the goalpost, lying in the recovery position, surrounded by a group of his classmates. Emergency services were called, and Harry was rushed to St. Luke's General Hospital in Kilkenny. Despite being transferred to a hospital in Dublin for further treatment, he succumbed to his injuries the following day, leaving his family, friends, and community in profound grief. The post-mortem examination revealed the extent of the damage caused by the sliotar. The impact caused a catastrophic injury, tearing an artery in his neck and leading to fatal internal bleeding in his brain. The tear in Harry's carotid artery, a vital blood vessel supplying the brain, was deemed a freak injury, extremely rare and devastating. Kilkenny County Coroner Tim Keeley emphasized during the inquest that even if Harry had been wearing a helmet, it would not have prevented his death given the nature and location of the injury. The whole community felt the impact of Harry's loss. Tributes poured in from across Ireland, with countless messages expressing sorrow and support for his grieving family. Harry's parents, Fergal and Annette, along with his siblings Jake, Amy, and Sam, described him as a boy with a heart of gold. His local Gaelic Athletic Association club, Young Irelands, remembered him as a talented and passionate player who was loved by all. Kilkenny Rugby Football Club, where Harry played rugby, echoed these sentiments, calling him a fantastic young boy with a larger-than-life character. Hundreds of mourners gathered at his funeral to pay their respects, including classmates, teammates, and representatives from numerous sports organizations. Harry's coffin, adorned with his Young Ireland's jersey, was carried into the church amidst a guard of honor formed by his schoolmates and sports friends. Parish priest Father Patrick Dalton spoke movingly during the Requiem Mass, reflecting on the enormity of the loss. He said that when someone so young died unexpectedly, there were no words to ease the pain. Harry Byrne's passing is all the more tragic given his young age. Even more, his death is a reminder of life's fragility and the unpredictable risks inherent in even the most ordinary activities. But Harry's memory endures.
It was August 7th, 1997, in Buxton, North Carolina, a small village on Hatteras Island. Daniel Jones, a 21-year-old student from Woodbridge, Virginia, was on summer break, enjoying a beach day with his girlfriend, Julie Baker. Daniel was curious and adventurous, passionate about the outdoors. He studied at Northern Virginia Community College and worked as a computer systems engineer. On this day, he was doing something he had loved since childhood, digging in the sand. Daniel had been on Hatteras Island for a week with Julie. The couple had been together for 4 years, having met in high school, and they planned to marry. Julie often joined Daniel on his beach outings, and this time was no different. She watched him dig a large hole in the sand, capturing the moment on her video camera. The hole Daniel dug was unusually deep, around 9 feet deep and 8 feet wide. He had spent most of the morning digging, likely enjoying the cooler temperature, and break from the wind inside the hole. Nearby beachgoers saw Daniel digging and assumed he was having fun. They didn't think much of it. Around 1:50 p.m., tragedy struck. The whole walls collapsed, burying Daniel under several feet of sand. Julie screamed for help, and people nearby rushed over. Panic quickly set in as they realized how dangerous the situation had become. The sand was heavy and packed tightly, trapping Daniel underneath. Tourists, locals, and rescue workers immediately started digging. They used anything they could find, from their hands to plastic toy shovels. Even Ollie Jarvis, the owner of a nearby tackle shop, handed out shovels to people trying to help. More than 200 people gathered, working together in a desperate attempt to save Daniel. Unfortunately, the sand collapsed into the hole, making it harder to reach him. It took nearly an hour before the rescue team uncovered Daniel's head. They placed an oxygen mask over his face, but it was too late. Daniel was pronounced dead at Hatteras Island Medical Center. The cause of death was suffocation. The news of Daniel's tragic death spread quickly, shocking those who knew him. His mother, Mary Ann Jones, spoke about Daniel's love for digging, recalling that it was something he had done since childhood. He always loved playing in the sand, but never dug that deep, she shared. Daniel wasn't just a regular beachgoer. He was also an Eagle Scout, known for his kindness and dedication to helping others. He regularly volunteered at a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C., handing out sandwiches every Friday night. His death left a deep void in the hearts of many who knew and loved him. Julie Baker, his girlfriend, was devastated. The couple had shared dreams of the future, and Daniel's sudden death shattered those plans. Friends and family gathered to mourn the loss of a young man with so much potential whose life was cut tragically short. Locals and tourists alike questioned why Daniel had dug such a deep hole. Carol Dillon, owner of the Outer Banks Motel where Daniel had been staying, remembered his kind and friendly demeanor. "He was like a ray of sunshine," she said. Ryan Dawson, a 19-year-old from Buxton who helped in the rescue, expressed his grief over the tragedy. "I was just hoping he'd be alive when we got him out," he said, saddened by the outcome. Daniel Jones's tragic death shows the hidden dangers of everyday activities. Although seemingly harmless, digging deep holes in the sand can turn deadly when the walls collapse. Despite the overwhelming effort from those around him, Daniel could not be saved, leaving his family and friends to grieve the loss of a bright and caring young man.
It was June 5, 2014, in Novato, California, when the Moylan family faced an unimaginable loss. Sean Moylan, a 27-year-old known for his kindness and wit, lost his life after falling from the Golden Gate Bridge. His death carried an even deeper resonance as his grandfather, John Moylan, had long fought to make the bridge safer by advocating for barriers to prevent such tragedies. John Moylan was a well-known figure in San Francisco and was celebrated for his dedication to public safety and community service. Born in Ireland, he immigrated to the United States in 1951 and devoted much of his life to union leadership and improving lives. As a board member of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District, he spearheaded efforts to install a barrier on the bridge to prevent deaths. His mission became personal after losing a grandnephew under similar circumstances, strengthening his resolve to address this issue. After years of debate, the board approved a barrier plan in 2008. However, progress was slow, and construction wasn't completed for years. Tragically, despite John's tireless advocacy, his grandson Sean became one of the individuals the barrier might have saved. Sean had faced significant emotional challenges for years, despite being seen by many as a bright and caring individual. Earlier in 2014, he survived a life-threatening accident in Eugene, Oregon, when he stepped in front of a moving truck. Evidence suggested it was an intentional act. Though he recovered physically, his emotional pain lingered. Family members, including John, spent time with Sean after the incident, believing he was healing. Just days before his passing, Sean appeared upbeat, joking, and enjoying a meal with his family. On the afternoon of June 5th, Sean went to the Golden Gate Bridge. At around 4:22 p.m., the Coast Guard recovered his body from the waters below, confirming the tragic loss. For John, the heartbreak was profound, as he had spent years fighting for the safety of others on the bridge, only to lose his grandson there. In interviews following Sean's death, John spoke candidly about his grandson's struggles. He described Sean as a generous and good-natured young man who had battled inner pain. Refusing to place blame on the bridge or anyone else, John acknowledged the complexity of his grandson's struggles. "He had a problem, and that's it," John said, emphasizing that no single factor was responsible for what happened. Despite his grief, John remained committed to his mission. Just weeks after Sean's death, the Golden Gate Bridge Board was set to meet and finalize funding for a $68 million project to install a safety net under the bridge. This initiative was bittersweet for John. He had fought for it for years, yet it came too late to save Sean. Since its opening in 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge has become a site of despair for many, with over 1,500 lives lost there. On average, dozens of people attempt to take their lives at the bridge each year. John's work was a reminder that while barriers might help, broader solutions were needed to address mental health struggles. Even as he mourned his grandson, he remained determined to advocate for these changes. The Golden Gate Bridge's safety barrier faced significant opposition over the years. Critics raised concerns about its cost, aesthetics, and potential impact on tourism. Yet John persisted, believing every life saved was worth the effort. Under his leadership, the project eventually gained approval, and construction began, though it would take years to complete. Sean's passing underscored the ongoing challenges of mental health and prevention. While the safety barrier represented progress, John acknowledged it wouldn't stop every tragedy. For him, it was part of a larger fight against an issue that affects countless families. "This is an epidemic," John said, hoping continued efforts could bring change. John Moylan's tireless advocacy left an enduring legacy on the Golden Gate Bridge, transforming it into a symbol of hope for countless lives. Sean's heartbreaking story is a powerful call to action, urging compassion and awareness for struggles often hidden in silence. Through his grief, John's unwavering dedication to preventing future tragedies is an inspiring testament to resilience and the power of change. It was the night of September 18, 2015 in Katni, a small town in Madhya Pradesh, India. Latori Barman, a 45-year-old farm laborer, attended a village fair. After the event, his wife left to visit her parents while Latori decided to head home alone. He had been drinking, and the road he took was poorly maintained. The path had a large, unmarked pothole. No warnings, barriers, or lights to indicate danger. It was pitch dark, and Latori, unaware of the hazard, stumbled into the deep hole, lost his balance, and fell. In his intoxicated state, he lost consciousness. That same night, a team of road workers arrived to repair the damaged section. Their task was to fill the pothole with a mixture of gravel and asphalt, and then flatten it with a steamroller. Unknowingly, they began working without noticing Latori lying at the bottom of the hole. They poured hot tar over him and completed the job, leaving him buried beneath the newly paved road. The following morning, villagers from Sleemanabad made a disturbing discovery. As one local walked along the freshly laid road, they noticed something unusual. Part of an arm was sticking out from the asphalt. Upon closer inspection, the horrifying truth emerged. Latori's body was buried beneath the road. Authorities were called, and an investigation began. Latori had tragically passed away due to suffocation under the layers of hot tar. The police concluded that he had fallen into the pothole the previous night while intoxicated. The road workers, unaware of his presence, unknowingly sealed him under the fresh asphalt. The tragedy sparked outrage in the local community. Villagers protested, blocking roads and demanding accountability. The workers involved, including the truck driver who transported the asphalt and the individual who filled the pothole, were arrested and charged with negligence leading to a loss of life. This incident showed a much larger problem in India: the dangerous state of its roads. Poor maintenance, lack of safety measures, and hazardous infrastructure contribute to thousands of accidents annually. In rural areas and even major cities, potholes often turn into death traps, especially during the monsoon season. According to statistics, around 7,700 people lose their lives each year in India due to road-related hazards. The term killer craters has been used to describe these deadly potholes. In some areas, residents name these hazards after public officials to draw attention to the issue. Latori's case became one of the many tragedies linked to inadequate infrastructure, sparking public calls for better road safety measures and stricter oversight of construction projects. As a response, local authorities offered Latori's family a compensation of 50,000 rupees, or about $760. While the payment was intended to alleviate some of the financial strain on his widow and children, many felt it was an insufficient gesture considering the gravity of the incident. The tragedy also raised critical questions. How did the workers fail to notice Latori in the pothole? Why were there no safety measures, such as barriers or warning signs, to prevent accidents like this? And why did it take a villager noticing his arm the next day for the truth to come to light? Latori's death, though shocking, was not an isolated incident. India's roads claim thousands of lives annually, with poorly maintained roads playing a significant role. These accidents often go unnoticed until they result in devastating consequences. Latori's story is an example of the dangers posed by neglect and lack of oversight. Improving infrastructure is key to preventing such tragedies. Roads need proper construction, regular maintenance, and safety measures like visible signage and protective barriers. However, challenges such as corruption and poor accountability in India's public works system hinder meaningful progress. Latori Barman's untimely passing is a warning about the cost of neglecting road safety. While the workers involved were charged, the real tragedy lies in how preventable his death could have been if basic precautions had been in place. His story underscores the urgent need for reform in road safety and infrastructure management in India. 2015, On a regular Sunday in Jingzhou, a busy city in China's Hubei province, families were out shopping, and the Anliang department store was bustling with weekend crowds. For 30-year-old Xiang Liujuan and her 2-year-old son, it started as a typical outing, but ended in an unimaginable tragedy that shook the nation. Xiang and her son were nearing the top of an escalator when disaster struck. The metal floor panel beneath their feet suddenly gave way, exposing the machinery below. In a desperate act, Xiang pushed her son forward, saving his life as the floor collapsed. A nearby mall worker pulled the boy to safety, but Xiang was pulled into the escalator's mechanism. Despite efforts to save her, she was unable to escape. CCTV footage captured the harrowing moments. Xiang was seen holding her son, struggling to push him away from the danger as the floor crumbled. In those final seconds, she disappeared into the machinery, while a mall employee tried to grab her hand, but it was too late. Her husband, Jiang Wei, was shopping on another floor and witnessed the incident, helpless to intervene. What made this tragedy even harder to bear was that it could have been prevented. Just minutes before the collapse, mall staff noticed the loose metal panel. 2 employees found screws missing, leaving the plate unstable. Yet no action was taken to shut down the escalator or warn shoppers. There were no signs, barriers, or immediate safety measures. The head of the local safety administration later revealed that maintenance work had been done on the escalator earlier that day. However, the workers had failed to secure the panel properly. This oversight led to the fatal accident. Witnesses said the mall employees tried to warn Xiang as she approached the top, but by then it was too late. The escalator kept running, and within moments the catastrophe unfolded. Emergency responders worked for 4 hours to recover Xiang's body from the machinery. By the time they succeeded, there were no signs of life. News of the incident quickly spread across Chinese social media, with millions reacting to the heartbreaking story. Many praised Xiang's heroic actions in saving her son, while others expressed outrage at the negligence that allowed the tragedy to happen. Questions arose about why the escalator wasn't shut down immediately after the loose screws were discovered. The employees, it was revealed, lacked training in handling such emergencies. Experts also criticized the design of the escalator. Charles Wong Kai-han, a safety expert, explained that relying on screws to secure panels was unsafe and prone to failure. He noted that the cover should have been designed to remain stable under stress. But design flaws weren't the only issue. The larger problem was the lack of accountability and immediate action by the mall. The department store remained silent, refusing to release a statement or take responsibility. Investigations were ongoing, but the public's frustration continued to grow. Many saw this as part of a broader issue with safety standards in public spaces. This incident is not unique. In recent years, several similar escalator-related tragedies have occurred in China, highlighting systemic problems with maintenance and safety enforcement. In 2012, a young boy lost his life in a similar accident at a Beijing department store. Months earlier, a subway escalator malfunction in Beijing claimed another life. These repeated tragedies reveal ongoing lapses in safety protocols. Following Xiang's death, local authorities suspended the use of escalators made by Shenlong Elevator Limited, the manufacturer of the faulty machine. Inspectors were sent to check all escalators and elevators in the region to prevent further accidents. However, for Xiang's family, these actions came too late. They were left grieving a mother, wife, and daughter whose life was cut short. Xiang's family had refrained from discussing compensation until the investigation concluded. They wanted accountability for the preventable errors that led to her death. For now, they focus on honoring her memory, especially her last act of courage in saving her son. This tragedy is a grim reminder of the importance of safety in public spaces. It raises difficult questions. What if the staff had acted sooner? Could Xiang have been saved if the escalator was stopped or shoppers were warned in time? And how many more accidents are waiting to happen due to negligence and poor infrastructure? Xiang Liujuan's story is a heartbreaking example of heroism and the devastating consequences of preventable mistakes. It underscores the urgent need for better safety measures, proper training, and stricter accountability to ensure such tragedies never happen again. It was October 20th, 2007 in New Delhi, India. Surinder Singh Bajwa, the 52-year-old deputy mayor of Delhi, was spending a quiet evening at home. Bajwa had been elected to his position in April, just months earlier. As a senior member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, he was already a well-known figure in the local political scene. But that night, an unexpected event would change everything. Outside Bajwa's home, a group of rhesus macaques, a type of monkey known for being aggressive and territorial, entered the property. These monkeys were a growing problem in New Delhi, where urban development had disrupted their natural habitats. It wasn't uncommon for them to raid homes, steal food, or even confront people. But no one expected an incident this severe. Reports suggested that Bajwa noticed the monkeys and tried to scare them off. In his attempt to protect his home, he ended up on his balcony. What happened next was unclear, but it was believed that the monkey's aggressive behavior startled Bajwa, causing him to lose his balance and fall from the first-floor terrace. He suffered serious head injuries from the fall. Neighbors were horrified. Though the monkey problem was well known, no one had imagined it could lead to such a tragedy. Emergency services were called, and Bajwa was rushed to Indraprastha Apollo Hospital. Despite the doctor's efforts, his injuries were too severe, and he passed away the next day, October 21, 2007. Bajwa's death shocked the city. He was a dedicated public servant, a husband, and a father. His family was devastated by the sudden loss, and the community mourned the tragedy. His death also brought national attention to Delhi's long-standing monkey problem, an issue that had been neglected for years despite repeated complaints. In New Delhi, rhesus macaques had become a part of everyday life. They frequently invaded homes, damaged property, and even injured people. Children and pedestrians were particularly vulnerable to their aggressive behavior. The city's rapid urbanization had displaced the monkeys from their natural habitats, forcing them to adapt to urban areas where food and shelter were abundant. Local authorities had tried various methods to control the monkey population, but none had worked effectively. One approach involved using langurs, a larger species of monkey, to scare away the rhesus macaques. However, this solution created problems. Langurs were difficult to manage, and employing them was illegal. Some handlers lost their jobs, and the monkey issue persisted. In some cases, even government offices had been overrun by monkeys, with reports of sensitive documents being scattered by them. Bajwa's family and neighbors had dealt with monkey invasions before, but they hadn't imagined the problem would turn deadly. His death highlighted the authorities' inability to address the issue despite court orders demanding action. The problem had become so severe that a lawsuit had been filed against the government for its failure to act. The public response to Bajwa's death was a mix of grief and anger. While many offered condolences to his family, others criticized the government for ignoring a growing safety threat. Political leaders visited Bajwa's home to pay their respects, but frustration among residents was clear. Many demanded immediate action to prevent further incidents. One challenge in solving the monkey problem was the cultural and religious significance of these animals in India. Monkeys are considered sacred by many and are associated with the Hindu god Hanuman. Feeding monkeys is a common practice, which further encouraged their presence in urban areas. Efforts to remove or relocate the animals often face resistance from local communities. Following Bajwa's death, the Delhi Municipal Corporation, or MCD, announced plans to hire more monkey catchers and implement stricter measures to control the monkey population. However, many felt these actions were too late. The tragedy has been a grim reminder of the dangers posed by wildlife in urban areas and the need for a long-term solution. Bajwa's fall wasn't the first serious incident involving monkeys, but it was among the most high-profile. Over the years, monkeys have injured residents, damaged property, and disrupted daily life in the city. In one case, even the defense ministry had to deal with monkeys tampering with important documents. The issue wasn't just a nuisance. It had become a security and safety concern for Delhi. Bajwa's death underscored the urgent need for better wildlife management in the rapidly growing city. While efforts to address the problem continued, his passing remained a tragic reminder of what happens when urban development and nature collide without proper planning.
It was February 22, 2008, in Swansea, South Wales. A 34-year-old graphic design student, Adam Dealey, attended a photography exhibition at the Monkey Cafe nightclub. Originally from Birmingham, Adam had moved to Swansea to pursue his degree, working part-time at the club to support his studies. He wasn't working, but enjoying the event with his friends that night. Adam was known for his friendly personality and love of having fun. As the night went on, a spontaneous eating contest began among the attendees. It started as a light-hearted joke, seeing who could stuff the most fairy cakes, small sponge cakes, into their mouths. One person managed to fit 3, then another fit 4. Adam caught up, decided to join in, and attempted to cram 5 cakes into his mouth. However, things quickly took a serious turn. Adam realized he couldn't breathe and started choking. He walked towards the toilets, likely trying to spit out the cakes. Unfortunately, his friends initially thought he was still joking and didn't notice the severity of the situation. One of Adam's friends, Daniel Finselbach, noticed something was wrong and followed him to the toilets. There, he saw Adam convulsing, struggling to cough up the cakes. Daniel immediately attempted the Heimlich maneuver, trying to dislodge the food from Adam's throat. Despite his efforts, Adam collapsed and hit his head on the toilet. Paramedics were called immediately. They arrived within 10 minutes, but by then Adam had already gone into cardiac arrest. They rushed him to Singleton Hospital, continuing their attempts to revive him, but sadly, Adam was pronounced dead at 3:20 a.m. The news of Adam's death shocked everyone who knew him. Amanda Davey and Paul Dyke, the owners of the Monkey Cafe, were devastated. In a statement, they expressed their deep sorrow and offered condolences to Adam's family, calling it a tragic and avoidable accident. An inquest into Adam's death was held, confirming that the cause was choking due to the blockage of food in both his upper and lower airways. Dr. Maurizio Brotto, who performed the post-mortem, verified this. The coroner, Philip Rogers, recorded a verdict of misadventure, emphasizing the risks of such actions, saying, "It doesn't take me to say that trying to fit as much food in your mouth as possible is dangerous." During the inquest, it was revealed that Adam had been drinking that night and had about 1.5 times the legal drink-drive limit of alcohol in his system. However, Dr. Brotto explained that this level wouldn't have significantly impaired Adam's judgment, especially since he was used to drinking. The spontaneous nature of the cake-eating contest was a key point of discussion at the inquest. Stephen Jenkins, another attendee, explained how the contest started. "There was a tray of cakes from the buffet. My friend tried to fit 3 cakes in his mouth, so I tried to beat him by putting 4 in mine. Adam heard about it and tried 5. I saw that he was struggling, but then he walked towards the toilets." Daniel Finzelbach, who had tried to save Adam, described what he witnessed. "I saw Adam walk towards the toilets, his body convulsing. There was cake around his mouth, and he was struggling to breathe. I ran after him and slapped his back hard, then tried the Heimlich maneuver, but he collapsed." The coroner's ruling of misadventure highlighted the accidental nature of Adam's death. Philip Rogers stressed that activities involving large amounts of food are inherently dangerous and should be avoided. He also clarified that the bar staff did not organize the cake-eating contest, but was an impromptu act by the attendees. Adam's family was deeply affected by his sudden death. He was their only child, and his parents, Sandra and Robert, were too devastated to attend the inquest. The last time they had seen Adam was during a visit to his university in December, just 2 months before the tragedy. They were proud of their son and his plans to move to New Zealand after finishing his studies. The Monkey Cafe community also mourned Adam's death. Flowers and tributes were laid outside the cafe in his memory. Paul Cunningham, a sound engineer at the club, expressed his sorrow and urged others to be cautious with similar pranks, warning, "Don't play these games. They can end in tragedy." He described Adam as a kind person who is loved by everyone and will be greatly missed. It was November 30th, 2004, in Kent, Washington. Philip Quinn, a 24-year-old man, was found dead in his trailer home after a tragic accident involving a lava lamp. Known for his curiosity, Philip was excited to try out his new lava lamp, a decorative item popular for the gentle movement of wax inside. These lamps heat the wax with a bulb, causing it to rise and fall inside a glass container. The lamp is designed to operate at around 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit, with the wax melting slowly under the gentle heat of a 40-watt bulb. Philip's eagerness to see the lamp in action led to a fatal mistake. Philip grew impatient when the lava lamp didn't start working as quickly as he expected. Instead of waiting, he placed the lamp on his kitchen stove to speed up the process. This decision turned deadly, as the lamp's glass container was not built to handle the direct heat from a stove. The intense heat rapidly overheated the liquid and wax inside the bottle, causing them to expand faster than they were designed to. The wax, which normally rises and falls in a slow cycle, was now heating uncontrollably. Lava lamps are meant to function under controlled temperatures, and the stove's heat pushed the temperature far beyond safe limits. As the pressure inside the glass bottle grew, the lamp's structure couldn't contain it. Within moments, the bottle exploded. A large shard of glass from the lava lamp was propelled through the air with force, striking Philip directly in the chest. The glass pierced his heart, causing a fatal injury. In shock and immense pain, Philip managed to stumble into his bedroom before collapsing. His parents later found him lying dead on the floor, with the remains of the lava lamp scattered across the kitchen. Investigators quickly ruled out foul play or substance use. They determined that Philip's death was the result of an unfortunate accident caused by his impatience. Had he followed the safety guidelines provided with the lamp, the tragedy could have been avoided. During the investigation, police noted the burnt and shattered remains of the lava lamp in the kitchen. It was clear that Philip had tried to speed up the process by using the stove, leading to the explosion. Experts pieced together what likely happened. The wax inside the bottle finally began to move just before the glass container shattered from the excessive heat, sending deadly shards flying. The incident drew public attention, reminding everyone of the importance of following product safety instructions. Lava lamp manufacturers warn against placing the lamps near direct heat sources like stoves, as this poses a significant risk of overheating and explosion. Philip Quinn's death was even investigated by the popular TV show Mythbusters in 2006. In episode 17, the team attempted to recreate the circumstances of his death. They heated a lava lamp on an electric hot plate and used a human ribcage replica to simulate the effect. Their experiment confirmed that the lava lamp could explode when overheated, sending glass shards flying with dangerous force. While Mythbusters demonstrated that an explosion was possible, they didn't find a glass shard embedded in the torso of their human model, as Philip had experienced. However, their tests showed that the extreme heat from the stove caused the pressure inside the lamp to rise rapidly, making the explosion inevitable. Philip Quinn's story exemplifies how a moment of impatience can turn deadly. It underscores the importance of following safety guidelines and using household items correctly. While lava lamps are mesmerizing and beautiful, they are designed to function under specific conditions. When those conditions are ignored, even something as harmless as a decorative lamp can become dangerous.
Linda Goldblum, a 79-year-old grandmother of 7 and devoted Dodgers fan, was a lively woman, full of joy. Celebrating her recent birthday and 59th wedding anniversary with her husband Irwin, Linda had always cherished the simple pleasures of life, family, love, and baseball. A longtime Dodgers season ticket holder, she shared countless moments at the stadium with Irwin, their dates often spent cheering from the low level. That summer evening on August 25, 2018 was supposed to be no different. That night, the Dodgers faced the San Diego Padres in a close contest. Linda, accompanied by Irwin, his brother Michael, and sister-in-law Eve, had the perfect seats. Third row loge level, slightly to the first base side of home plate. She wore Dodgers blue, cheered enthusiastically, and soaked in the atmosphere as the game stretched into the 9th inning. The excitement mirrored her passion for the team she had loved for decades. But as the final inning began, tragedy struck. In the top of the 9th inning, Padres batter Franmil Reyes fouled off a pitch from Dodgers closer Kenley Jansen. The ball shot backward with terrifying speed, a white blur that cleared the protective netting and struck Linda on the right side of her head. Witnesses described it as a bolt of lightning, giving no time for reaction. The impact was so severe that the ball ricocheted to the row above and then bounced off Michael's chest before settling several rows away. Linda immediately slumped in her seat, prompting Irwin, who was sitting beside her, to lean over in alarm. He asked if she was okay, but her brief response that she was not would be the last words she ever spoke. Ushers quickly arrived and emergency medical technicians rushed her to Los Angeles County University of Southern California Medical Center. In the ambulance, Linda vomited, a sign of the catastrophic injury she had sustained. Emergency surgery was performed to relieve pressure on her brain, but she never regained consciousness. For 3 days, she remained on a ventilator, unresponsive except for a fleeting movement of her finger when asked her name. On August 28th, her family gathered by her side, sharing memories and saying goodbye before fulfilling her wishes not to be kept alive by machines. Linda Goldblum passed away the next morning. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as acute intracranial hemorrhage due to a history of blunt force trauma from the batted ball. Despite the magnitude of the tragedy, the incident received no media coverage at the time. The moment the ball struck, Linda was not televised, and the Dodgers made no public acknowledgement until pressed by Entertainment and Sports Programming Network 6 months later. Their brief statement expressed condolences and revealed that the matter had been resolved with the Goldblum family. No further details were provided. For Irwin and his family, the aftermath was a mixture of profound grief and frustration. Although the family chose not to pursue legal action due to the baseball rule protecting teams from liability for foul ball injuries, they remained determined to prevent similar accidents. Linda's daughter, Jana Brody, advocated publicly for expanded and heightened protective netting at Major League Baseball stadiums. At the time of Linda's death, Major League Baseball had recently recommended extending netting to the far ends of the dugouts, but it was not enough. Spurred by public outcry and advocacy from families like the Goldblums, teams across the league began further increasing netting height and coverage. A year after the tragedy, the Dodgers raised their netting by 8 feet, a small but meaningful step toward ensuring fan safety. Linda Goldblum's death was only the second fatality from a foul ball in Major League Baseball history, following the 1970 death of 14-year-old Alan Fish, also at Dodger Stadium. July 26, 2010 in California, when 80-year-old Maria de Jesus Arroyo suffered a heart-related incident at home. Emergency responders rushed her to White Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles, where doctors tried to revive her but ultimately declared her dead. Her passing was attributed to cardiac arrest. Following standard procedure, hospital staff placed her body in the morgue freezer, unaware that this decision would lead to a horrifying tragedy. Maria was a beloved mother of 8, grandmother and wife of 63 years. Her family, who had just celebrated her 80th birthday, believed she had passed peacefully. They began funeral arrangements without suspicion. However, when the morticians received her body days later, they made a shocking discovery. Maria's body was found face down in the bag, her face bruised, cut, and disfigured with a broken nose. These injuries were too severe to have occurred post-mortem or during routine handling. Devastated, the family initially assumed mishandling by hospital staff. They filed a lawsuit accusing the hospital of negligence. But as experts examined the case, a much more disturbing explanation came to light. A pathologist, Dr. William Lewis Mennion, reviewed Maria's injuries and concluded that she had likely been alive when placed in the freezer. His analysis suggested that the cold temperatures caused her to regain consciousness. Disoriented and trapped in darkness, Maria might have struggled to free herself, causing the injuries on her face. Tragically, the freezing conditions ultimately led to her death. Dr. Mannion's findings described an unthinkable scenario. He concluded that Maria had been improperly placed in the freezer while still alive, face up instead of face down. This position, combined with her attempts to escape, resulted in severe injuries. The disfigurement, including bruises and cuts, indicated a desperate struggle, not damage that could occur after death. The hospital denied these claims, insisting they followed correct procedures and disputing the pathologist's conclusions. They argued there was no proof Maria had been alive when sent to the morgue. The family, now accusing the hospital of medical malpractice, filed another lawsuit in December 2011. Their lawyer, Scott Schutzman, called the case one of the most extreme examples of negligence. Schutzman remarked that it was every family's nightmare. He wondered aloud if anyone could imagine waking up in a sealed body bag, unable to escape. The legal process was fraught with obstacles. Initially, the case was dismissed due to the statute of limitations, as the family had waited more than a year to file. However, the 2nd District Court of Appeal overturned this ruling, stating the family could not have known the truth until receiving the pathologist report. The lawsuit was allowed to proceed, offering the family a chance to seek justice. Court records highlighted troubling inconsistencies in the hospital's actions. Reports suggested Maria's vital signs might not have been thoroughly checked before declaring her dead. EKG records showed potential signs of life, raising questions about whether the hospital had rushed its decision. These findings pointed to procedural failures with devastating consequences. For Maria's family, the ordeal was emotionally unbearable. They struggled to reconcile the horrifying details of her final moments with the loving memories they had of her. The idea that she woke up alone, cold, and fighting for her life was a haunting image they could not escape. The case brought attention to serious flaws in medical protocols. It underscored the dire need for thorough confirmation of death to avoid preventable tragedies. As the lawsuit unfolded, the Arroyo family remained determined to hold the hospital accountable, despite the hospital's continued denials and defense of its actions. This tragedy left lingering questions. What if Maria's vital signs had been rechecked? Could her life have been saved? And how did such an unimaginable mistake occur? For her family, the pursuit of answers and justice was their only comfort, though no legal outcome could erase the pain of what Maria endured in her final hours. It was September 3, 2010, in the rural county of Devon, England. Mike Edwards, a former cellist for the legendary 1970s rock band Electric Light Orchestra, or ELO, was driving along the A381 road near Totnes. A beloved figure in the music world, Mike was heading to a concert when an unforeseen event changed everything. A massive hay bale, weighing nearly 600 kilograms, or 1,300 pounds, rolled down a hillside, crashed into his van, and caused his untimely passing. This tragic and rare accident shocked the music community and left many wondering how such a bizarre event could happen. Mike Edwards was born on May 31, 1948 in West London. Music was a constant in his life, inspired by his father, who played the cello as a hobby. Mike's talent led him to the prestigious Royal Academy of Music, where he honed his skills and became a versatile musician, mastering classical, jazz, and eventually rock music. In 1972, Mike joined ELO, a band known for blending classical elements with rock. His cello played a central role in their innovative sound, and his eccentric performances quickly made him a fan favorite. Mike was known for his unconventional antics on stage, such as using fruit as a bow for his cello, or adding pyrotechnics to his performances. These unique displays became part of ELO's identity during its early years. Despite his success with ELO, Mike left the band in 1975 seeking a quieter life. He focused on teaching, performing with local ensembles, and exploring creative music projects. Later, he adopted the name Swami Deva Pramada, reflecting his spiritual journey as a follower of the Indian teacher Osho. Though he stepped away from the spotlight, his contributions to music left a lasting impact. On the day of the accident, Mike was driving through a quiet, agricultural stretch of Devon. Unknown to him, a hay bale had been left near the edge of a sloped field. The bale had been moved the day before by Russell Williams, a contractor working for farmer Brian Burden. Due to equipment issues, Williams couldn't finish the job that day and left the bale in place, assuming it was secure. Tragically, it wasn't. As Mike passed along the road, the hay bale detached and rolled down the steep hill, crashing through a wire fence and hedge before colliding with his van. The impact was devastating and left Mike with no chance of survival. It was a sunny, clear day, making the event all the more shocking. The news of Mike's passing devastated his family, friends, and fans. Investigators quickly examined the incident, focusing on the handling of the hay bale. Both Burden and Williams faced charges related to safety violations, with prosecutors arguing that the accident could have been prevented. However, during the trial, evidence showed that both men had acted responsibly, and the jury found them not guilty. The court concluded that the event was an unfortunate accident, one that could have happened to anyone under similar circumstances. Mike's death was mourned deeply. ELO co-founder Jeff Lynne remembered him as a talented musician and kind person, noting his iconic performances that had left a lasting impression. Fans and colleagues reflected on his legacy, recalling his creativity and contributions to music. In the years following the tragedy, Mike's family and community continued to honor his memory. His students, friends, and fellow musicians spoke of the profound impact he had on their lives, both as a teacher and an artist. Though his life ended abruptly, his passion and talent remained celebrated. Mike Edwards' passing stands as a sad reminder of how unpredictable life can be. From his groundbreaking work with ELO to his dedication to teaching and music, Mike left a mark that will not be forgotten.
It was the evening of September 2008 in Edlington, South Yorkshire, England. Andrew Lee, a 33-year-old aspiring chef and forklift driver, had decided to participate in a daring challenge. Known for his love of cooking, Andrew wanted to test his limits with an incredibly spicy chili sauce. Cooking was more than a hobby for Andrew. He was passionate about trying new recipes and dreamed of someday becoming a chef in France. His room was filled with cookbooks, and he often created new dishes. On this particular evening, Andrew made a bet with his girlfriend's brother, Michael. The challenge was simple but risky, to see who could handle eating the hottest chili sauce. Andrew's father had grown the peppers used in the sauce, specially cultivated for the contest. With their plates ready, Andrew and Michael began the challenge. They ate the sauce with nachos, and Andrew added it to a plate of pasta. This was no ordinary sauce. It was made from some of the hottest peppers available. Even for someone like Andrew, who regularly used chili in his cooking, this was beyond what he had ever tried. At first, both men experienced the expected intense heat. Their faces turned red, and sweat poured down their skin. The sauce was overwhelming, but Andrew powered through. However, soon after the contest, Andrew started to feel an unusual itching sensation, which concerned him, but not enough to seek help immediately. As the night continued, Andrew's discomfort worsened. By 2:30 a.m., he went to bed at his girlfriend Samantha Bailey's house, still feeling the itch. Samantha, who had 4 children, tried to comfort him by scratching his back until he finally fell asleep. The next morning, Samantha woke up to a nightmare. Andrew was unresponsive, lying still in bed. She called for an ambulance, but despite the paramedics' best efforts, Andrew was declared dead at the scene. His sudden death shocked everyone. Andrew had been a healthy man and had recently passed a full medical examination at work. No one could understand how a simple chili eating contest could have such a tragic outcome. An inquest was launched and a post-mortem examination was conducted, but it didn't provide a clear cause of death. To further investigate, toxicology tests were ordered to see if the chili sauce could have caused a fatal reaction. Medical experts explained that allergic responses to chili peppers are rare, but possible. Capsaicin, the compound that makes chilies hot, has some health benefits, but can also cause serious issues in large amounts. Andrew's mother, Pamela, was devastated by her son's sudden death. She described him as a healthy, ambitious man who loved cooking and couldn't understand how such a normal activity could end in such a tragedy. The family waited anxiously for answers, hoping the toxicology results would clarify. This event raised awareness of the potential dangers of consuming extremely spicy foods. Health experts warned against the trend of breeding hotter and hotter chili varieties, noting that even mild reactions can include burning eyes, a runny nose, and hiccups. In rare cases, severe reactions can lead to more serious complications, including heart issues, which might have happened in Andrew's case. Though the exact cause of his death remains unclear, it's evident that the ultra-hot chili sauce played a significant role. Andrew's love for cooking and willingness to take on culinary challenges ended unexpectedly and heartbreakingly. What if Andrew had decided to skip the challenge that night? What if he had seen the itching as a sign to get medical help? These lingering questions show us the risks that sometimes come with even the most innocent activities.
It was 1989, and a man called Death Wish was about to prove why he deserved the nickname. At 23 years old, Death Wish was a Scottish painter with a penchant for dangerous and reckless stunts. The young man would often engage in outrageous behavior, the kind of activities that most of us would never dream of doing. His real name is lost, or perhaps it was never made public. But his exploits were infamous among friends and locals. Known for smashing glasses on his head, swallowing sharp objects like keys and glass, and performing life-threatening tricks, he was described by police as being of good health physically but of low intellect. It was a harsh description maybe, but it was this combination of durability and recklessness that turned him into a figure of morbid fascination. Among his extensive repertoire of mind-boggling stunts, one stood out, swallowing and regurgitating a pool ball. One fateful night in 1989, Death Wish spent hours drinking heavily at a local pub. After closing time, the publican decided to defy legal closing hours and readmitted Death Wish and his friends, allowing them to continue drinking long after others had left. But as the evening stretched on, the painter turned to his signature stunt, a performance that his companions had seen many times before. The act involved maneuvering a pool ball to the back of his throat, holding it there briefly, and then regurgitating it. It had become a party trick, one that amused his friends. Maybe it was the young man's way to increase his social standing. This time, however, he opted for a white cue ball instead of a standard-colored pool ball. The difference was subtle but significant. The cue ball, used in billiards games, measures 4.75 centimeters in diameter, slightly smaller than the 5.03 centimeters of a standard pool ball. Though this size difference appears negligible, it drastically reduces the ball's volume, making it the perfect size to become lodged in the throat. Unbeknownst to Death Wish, the cue ball was a catastrophic choice. He placed the ball in his mouth and began the familiar process. This time, however, he quickly showed signs of distress. Panicked, he ran out of the pub and into the street. His collapse was sudden and horrifying. His face turned blue as he struggled for air, the ball wedged firmly in his pharynx. His friends tried to help, managing to get their hands into his mouth, but the ball would not budge. Moments later, an ambulance arrived. The medical team attempted to insert an airway tube to restore breathing, but the blockage was too severe. Within 15 minutes of swallowing the cue ball, the young man succumbed to suffocation. The ambulance crew pronounced him dead at the scene. A post-mortem examination revealed the precise cause of death. The cue ball was lodged so tightly in his throat that it completely obstructed his airway. The reduced diameter and volume of the cue ball, compared to standard pool balls, created the perfect conditions for such an obstruction, turning an otherwise survivable stunt into a fatal miscalculation. While Death Wish's tricks had once made him a figure of dark humor, his death serves as a grim reminder of the thin line between bravado and tragedy. Today, his story lives on as a cautionary tale of the fatal consequences of reckless risk-taking.
August 14th, 2010, a warm Saturday morning in Kentucky. Kalita Nicole Hicks, a 20-year-old from Olive Hill, was driving down Country Road 519 in her Chevy. Kalita lived with her parents, John and Janice Abney Hicks. She also had a brother, Jeremy Clayton, and a sister, Stephanie Campbell. That day, Kalita and her passenger decided to make a dangerous move. They planned to switch seats while the car was still moving. Kalita's Chevy had an open T-top, and they believed this would make the swap possible. Their idea was for Kalita to climb onto the roof, while her passenger slid into the driver's seat. Kalita began to pull herself onto the roof of the speeding car, but things took a fatal turn. As she climbed, she lost her balance. Her foot hit the steering wheel, causing the vehicle to swerve. Her passenger tried to regain control by grabbing the wheel, but Kalita had already fallen out of the car. As she fell, Kalita hit a guardrail at a high speed, suffering catastrophic injuries. She was rushed to the University of Kentucky Medical Center in Lexington, where she underwent surgery, but she could not be saved. Kalita passed away later that morning. The Fayette County Coroner's Office confirmed that her injuries from the fall were the cause of her death. Her death was not only tragic, but entirely avoidable. The reckless decision to switch seats while the car was moving cost Kalita her life. Meanwhile, Despite avoiding further disaster, the passenger faced legal consequences. He was arrested and charged with driving on a suspended license, improper registration, and having no insurance. Kalita's sudden death devastated her family. Her parents, John and Janice, were left heartbroken. Her siblings, Jeremy and Stephanie, struggled to cope with the loss. Her grandparents, Alfred and Mary Shrum Hicks, along with the rest of her family and friends, mourned the tragic accident. On August 17, 2010, Kalita was laid to rest. Her funeral took place at Globe Funeral Chapel in Olive Hill, Kentucky. Kalita was buried in the Hicks family cemetery on Garvin Ridge in Olive Hill, surrounded by her grieving loved ones. Kalita's story later appeared in the Darwin Awards, a platform highlighting deaths resulting from reckless behavior. The Rydam Cowgirl entry labeled Kalita's death as a cautionary story, a harsh lesson about the dangers of risky actions. There are many lessons to be learned from this tragedy. Most importantly, it shows the dangers of not taking road safety seriously. Attempting dangerous stunts while driving can have dire consequences. While Kalita's passenger tried to prevent a worse outcome by grabbing the wheel, his irresponsible decision, driving on a suspended license, contributed to the situation. Kalita's death forces us to reflect on how things could have gone differently. What if they had simply pulled over to switch seats safely? What if they had considered the potential consequences before taking such a risk? Kalita Nicole Hicks, born in 1989, lost her life at just 20 years old due to a single impulsive decision. Her death tells us the importance of road safety, leaving her family and community to grieve the loss of a young woman with so much ahead of her.
In 1906, in Brunn, Austria-Hungary, now Brno, Czech Republic, is remembered as one of the most influential mathematicians and logicians of the 20th century. His groundbreaking incompleteness theorems changed the way we understand mathematical systems. Yet despite his brilliance, Gödel's life was overshadowed by severe paranoia and mental health struggles, which eventually led to his tragic death. Gödel's early life was marked by illness. At the age of 6, he suffered from rheumatic fever. Although he recovered, Gödel believed this illness permanently affected his health, fueling lifelong anxiety and a preoccupation with his physical well-being. Over the years, he experienced several nervous breakdowns requiring hospitalization. Despite these challenges, Gödel's intellectual achievements were remarkable. He studied at the University of Vienna during the 1920s when the city was a hub for intellectual thought. He became a key member of the Vienna Circle, a group focused on logic and mathematics. Under the mentorship of Hans Hahn, Gödel completed his doctorate in 1929 at the age of 23. His work revealed that formal mathematical systems were inherently incomplete, no matter how rigorous, a revolutionary concept that recognized him worldwide. In 1931, Gödel published his incompleteness theorems. His first theorem showed that any consistent mathematical system contains truths that cannot be proven within the system itself. The second proved that such systems could not confirm their consistency. This shattered the prevailing belief that all mathematical truths could be derived from basic axioms, securing Gödel's legacy. As his academic reputation grew, Gödel's mental health declined. The political turmoil of the 1930s, including the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany, deeply unsettled him. Fearing for his safety and the possibility of being drafted into the German military, Gödel fled Austria in 1940 with his wife Adele Nimberski. The couple settled in the United States, where Gödel secured a position at Princeton University with the help of Albert Einstein, with whom he formed a close friendship. Gödel thrived professionally at Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study, but his personal life was plagued by growing paranoia. The 1936 death of his mentor, Moritz Schlick, who was killed by one of his students, intensified Gödel's fears of being targeted. He became convinced that someone was trying to harm him through poisoning. This fear grew so intense that he would only eat food prepared and tasted by Adele, who supported him through his struggles. As the years passed, Gödel's mental health worsened. He began experiencing hallucinations and developed an irrational distrust of those around him. By the late 1960s, his paranoia extended to friends and colleagues. Despite his continued contributions to mathematics and logic, his deteriorating mental state overshadowed his achievements. In 1977, Adele fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for 6 months. During her absence, Gödel refused to eat, convinced that any food not prepared by Adele was unsafe. His refusal to eat led to severe malnutrition. By the time Adele returned, Gödel's condition was critical. He passed away on January 14, 1978, weighing just 65 pounds. The official cause of death was malnutrition, brought on by his extreme fear of being harmed. Gödel's tragic death reveals how mental health struggles can deeply impact even the most brilliant individuals. His paranoia not only overshadowed his genius, but also ultimately led to his demise. While his groundbreaking work in mathematics and logic remains celebrated, his story is a reminder of the importance of addressing mental health challenges. What if Gödel had sought help earlier in life? Could his fears have been managed, allowing him to live a longer and more fulfilling life? His story raises important questions about how society recognizes and supports individuals dealing with mental health issues. Even the brightest minds are not immune to such struggles. Gödel's legacy is unmatched intellectual achievement paired with profound personal hardship. His story continues to resonate, reminding us of the balance between brilliance and the human condition. In 2013, Sida Osman was a 5-year-old boy born to Somali refugee parents in Fort Worth, Texas. Though his family had fled violence and instability in Somalia, Sida's life in the United States was filled with hope. He was set to begin kindergarten in the fall and lived in a close-knit community of Somali families who supported one another. Sida would often spend his days riding his bike and playing with neighborhood children near their apartment complex. One June evening at about 6 p.m., Sida's mother called for him to come home. The little boy, eager to continue his adventures, hopped on his bike and pedaled away. Hours later, however, Sida had still not come home. Overcome by worry, his parents reported him missing at 10:30 p.m., prompting a massive search effort. Police, aided by K-9 units, helicopters, and mounted officers, scoured the neighborhood throughout the night. Despite their efforts, there was no trace of the little boy. Sida remained missing. The next day, at approximately 1 p.m., a passerby made a grim discovery. The lifeless body of the little boy was found under a tree in the backyard of a vacant house just a block from where Sida lived. The Tarrant County medical examiner determined the cause of death to be blunt force trauma to the head. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the Somali community, which gathered to mourn Sida's death and demand justice and answers. It didn't take long for investigators to find their prime suspect, a 13-year-old boy from the same neighborhood. Witnesses reported seeing Sida with the teen in the backyard of the vacant house shortly before his disappearance. The teen, whose name remains withheld due to his age, had a history of violent and erratic behavior. He was known as a troublemaker who had been involved in theft, physical altercations, and even threats of violence. His father had left the family and the teen had remained in the care of his mother. But, sources claimed, the teen was physically abusive even towards his mother. According to police, the teenager became irritated with Sida, who had been persistently asking to be taken to the store. In a fit of rage, the teen used a 14-pound bowling ball to strike Sida in the head, describing the act as like spiking a football. When Sida fell, the teen allegedly straddled him and struck him a second time, fatally injuring the child. Shockingly, the teen later showed Sida's body to 3 friends who pleaded with him to call for help, but he refused. Hours after the murder, the teen even lied to Sida's mother when she asked if he had seen her son. The teenager's violent tendencies were well documented. Rick Stokes, founder of the Stokes Christian Boys' Home, described him as filled with rage and anger. His mother struggled to control his behavior despite seeking help and medication. The aftermath of Sida's death was marked by profound grief and a search for answers. Sida's family struggled to comprehend why anyone would harm their innocent child. The Somali community mourned collectively, their sorrow filling the courtroom as the case unfolded. The teen eventually pleaded guilty to capital murder, accepting a plea deal that sentenced him to 23 years in prison. During his sentencing, he tearfully addressed the Osman family, expressing remorse for his actions. Despite his apology, the devastating loss of Sida left an irreplaceable void in the lives of those who knew him. Sida's death also highlighted systemic failures. The teen's mental health struggles had led to repeated institutionalizations, but long-term solutions remained out of reach. His mother's attempts to seek help were met with temporary fixes that proved insufficient in the long run. For Sida's family, the grief remains an enduring reality. A vibrant life full of promise was cut tragically short, leaving a community to grapple with the senselessness of his loss.